Salutations everyone, this is Razor bringing you guys another Overwatch 2 video where today we're going to be talking about the Director's Take Balance preview for Season 8, which is just a few days away. Now they talked about a lot of stuff, most of which I'm sure you guys have heard. I'm just here to give my thoughts about them. First off, we got the change of the ult charge being retained when swapping heroes being reduced from 25% to 15%. And I honestly have no issue with this. Some people would say that at 15%, why even have it? Just take it out of the game. And I don't think if they did take it out of the game, it would make a huge difference. Obviously, it's going to encourage you to, if you are going to swap, make it sooner. Otherwise, you're going to be like, well, you know, I'm at 40 or 30. I might as well stay on and try to get that ult. But at the end of the day, making the right swap is more valuable than getting an ultimate that you don't know if it'll work out or not. So the whole counter swapping picks that people have been raging about the past few months, saying that the meta is all about counter swapping, especially when it comes to the tanks, like what tank is better against that tank, or what DPS is better against that tank, or what support is better against that tank. Since there's only one tank to worry about, that is the thing that you're going to want to counter swap against the most. I don't see enough people doing it, but you only really need one person to do it properly and execute in order to make that change felt. And now when we come to the Roadhog rework, his win rate absolutely skyrocketed. They say it's now around 54%, which is ridiculous for Overwatch. If you're talking about other video games, that's not crazy. But we're talking about Overwatch, that is insane. We never see a win rate that high. It just doesn't happen very often. And when it does happen, it's short-lived, because then they'll make a balance change, because that's kind of ridiculous. But at this point, they are not going to make a balance change to Roadhog, and he does win games. He is nigh unkillable. It doesn't matter if you have an Ana, Sleep Dart, and anti-nade him. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care about that very much anymore, because of the buffs and changes they're made to his take breather and everything. And I mean, it's people love to hate on the supports and say like, oh, there's so much healing power creep, but they keep making every character better at healing themselves, like Roadhog. So Roadhog is the reason he's not dying. It's not the fact that he's getting heals. And most people aren't making the swap to Ana anyway, at least when I'm on tank or DPS. But when we do, it's typically not enough. You're going to need a lot more. So Roadhog is a very, very strong character at every level of the game right now. And I think that's an issue, but the devs have faith that Malga will have answers to Roadhog, so they're not going to nerf Roadhog. I think they are overestimating the impact that Malga will have head-to-head against Roadhog. Each will have their own advantages up against each other, because while Roadhog can hook Malga, that will bring him point blank to where Malga's going to be blasting both of his Vulcan cannons at Roadhog and doing a ton of damage, right? But then you have Malga's ultimate gets absolutely shredded by Roadhog's ultimate, because Roadhog's ultimate just defeats every other ultimate in the game. There's just nothing that could combat it head to head. He can destroy that barrier and blast you full force against the barrier before the barrier gets destroyed. So, and he can also take a breather in between as well. So Roadhog's not going to very much care about getting cage matched against Malga, and he's going to possibly have better poke, at least at some range. He totally will. Now, we are going to have buffs to Malga, and I think people are super sleeping on how strong Malga is going to be at launch with the amount of buffs that they said. Remember what I said in my Malga video. If they give him as much as 150 armor, he's going to be unkillable. And what did they do? They gave him exactly 150 armor. So we'll have to wait and see how these two pan out, but obviously these two characters are going to have the biggest impact on how Season 8 is going to feel. It's going to be Roadhog, and the fact that he wasn't changed, and people are just going to get more used to him, and he's just going to continue to be unkillable and do a ton of damage, and or Malga just being unkillable and doing a ton of damage, and how those two interact with each other, of course, as well, because the devs are putting all their eggs in that basket. But we'll see. We'll see how long that lasts. The Doomfist buff, I totally understand that they're allowing him to regenerate health while using his ultimate in the air so that he doesn't have to use it as an escape tool as much. So you understand that, because it feels kind of bad to have a tank ultimate, which are historically some of the best in the game, even though they didn't really change his after turning him from a DPS to a tank. So it can be one of the more underwhelming ultimates. But Doomfist is good right now. You see him a lot, especially if you've played quick play, because in the last week of competitive, that's a lot of people throwing, right? But Doomfist in competitive has a really good win rate. He is 4th highest in Diamond. In Masters, he's 5th highest. And in GM, he's 3rd highest win rate. So, yeah, Doom, pretty good. Even in Plat, 5th highest. So, Doom is not bad. He's not doing poorly. He's doing very well right now and doesn't need this. Again, we got another character healing themselves, and who's going to get the blame? The healers, right? Ramattra is getting a buff. Now, this one is really interesting because if we remember, Ramattra came out for like about a week, right? And he was viewed as kind of weak. So they super buffed him, and he became the best character in the entire game for quite a long time. He was the best tank. And then he got a nerf, and people didn't play him as much. And then he got a buff, and people played him even less. And that was really weird. And that was the last time he was touched, was a buff to his Nemesis form and how tanky he was. And now they're making him even more tanky, shifting 100 of his health to armor in his base form, which is going to be very, very interesting because you can't kill him when he's in Nemesis form. You have to wait till he's in his base form, and now he's going to be a lot harder to kill while doing more damage with his projectiles from his staff. So this can be interesting. They're buffing they're buffing 3 tanks, because I'm going to count Malga because we've already seen him in a weaker state, so they're going to buff him. So they're buffing 3 tanks, and they're keeping the super giga-buffed Roadhog tank. So it's all about tanks. And we got one more tank buff. Winston's Tesla Cannon will now ignore armor damage reduction. I don't think this is going to make a huge change. You almost never see Winston. He has the lowest win rate in Plat. He has the lowest win rate in Diamond. He has the 2nd lowest win rate in Master behind Orisa, and again in GM has the 2nd lowest win rate behind Orisa. So Winston, you are only going to see him in top GM. You're not even seeing him in pro play. In the World Cup, we didn't see a lot of him because there's just so many characters. People like, oh, Anna stops Doom and stops Roadhog. No, she doesn't. Not very much, especially after the rework. Hog doesn't really care about Ana that much. And we have multiple characters who just shred Winston from existence. You got Reaper and Bastion. People say that Reaper is weak. He can be, but he can also pop off and be super strong and has one of the better ults in the game. And Bastion is just good, whether you're PC, console, bronze, or top 500. Bastion is just god tier insane, and nothing can stop him, including Winston. Now Winston will do more damage against armor, other tanks, as well as, Brigitte and Torbjorn. So I don't think this is going to make a huge difference, but it's just kind of a nice buff to a character that needs help because he can't really do much and the meta's not good for him. But a lot of people were thinking that might change because of some DPS changes. Sombra's ultimate, her EMP, is going to lock out abilities instead of 1.5 seconds to 3 seconds. And it will nerf the damage it does from 30% to 25% of maximum health. Sombra's rework, I think, was pretty good, but her win rate is super duper low. It's one of the lowest in every single tier across both platforms. She is at the bottom 2 for every single rank outside of a few. But the higher and higher, she's not. There's not a lot of targets that she can kill. Those that she can super duper dominate, and she can spawn kill better than ever before. But against decent teams or against like healers, there's not a lot that she can do head to head against a lot of them. So a buff makes sense, but we'll see if this might be too much. The EMP was the weakest part of her kit that you could say, and this will absolutely swing things in the other direction. So that's something to look into because it didn't seem like EMP could do much outside of solo catching out a squishy, right? You were only really using it to guarantee 1 kill, and oftentimes, of course, that could be enough. A lot of ultimates are built to only get 1 kill, and if you only get 1 kill, then that's good value for that ultimate. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. It's going to do less damage, but lockout time is going to be doubled. So don't know if that's really going to help her. They say that her win rate hovers between 45 and 48%, and that is, of course, reflected on overbuff stats as well. So yeah, not a great character right now when it comes to winning games. If you want to win games, you're probably not picking Sombra. Speaking of winning games, you have the king of winning games from the DPS, Soldier 76, which is in the top 2 in pretty much every category, including Grandmasters. He has the #1 win percentage for DPS at 52.08%. And they're nerfing his healing station cooldown by 3 seconds. Again, that's not touching his damage or really his quality of life. It's not going to make a big difference. You're only getting it in once per team fight anyway. There's going to be very, very small niche opportunities where you're not going to have it where it's going to save your life. So it's not really going to be that big of a deal. I think they could look into taking away some of the many, many buffs they've given him over the year, because he still is dominating at every single level of the game across both platforms and is also not that difficult to play. Then we have one of the more difficult characters to play getting a buff, which I did not see coming. Tracer is getting her damage per shot unnerfed from 5.5 back to 6. And Tracer has been the worst DPS in the game for a bit. Her win rate is in the bottom 3 in pretty much every single skill tier. It is only in Grandmasters, I believe, when she is not in the bottom 2. And I think you have to get to high Grandmasters to see that. And even when you get to Grandmasters, when she has a positive win rate, again, she has a negative win rate at every single tier except for GM. And even when she is having a positive win rate in GM, she is still outdone by the God Soldier, the God Flanker Genji, and Mei. A lot of people have been saying for over a year that Genji is super weak and he needs to be buffed, but he continues to have the highest win rates at every single level forever, and is a much better flanker. Sombra is a better flanker, Genji is a better flanker, Moira is a better flanker than Tracer. She's just super duper weak. She has one of the worst ultimates in the game, and it's the hardest one to use in the entire game. Yes, you can win. Yes, you can outplay. Yes, Tracers can be annoying, but a good Genji is just easier to be. His blade is way better. You're getting guaranteed multi-kills all the time, whereas Pulse Bomb, at best, you're getting 1 kill usually. It's just super hard to use, and so, yes, she needs buffs. It's probably not going to be enough, but with the Sombra and Winston buff, people are saying that, oh, Dive is coming back. I'd say just hold your horses on that because of the tanks that are ruling the roost right now. And Genji and Sombra are just better. And Sombra's not that great. She's getting better. And Genji isn't getting any buffs because, honestly, he doesn't need it. Still really, really good right now. And the numbers absolutely back that up. Then we're taking a look at Brig getting her whip shot damage unbuffed. This is okay. She is good, but the developers, I feel like, are super off base here when they say that Brigitte is the best performing support hero since the last patch, and seeing your feedback, she's becoming a must pick. I haven't seen anybody, even pro players, saying that. GM players, top 500 players, nobody is saying that she's a must pick or she's one of the best in the game. She is at the top of the win rates when we talk about GM and Master. But I don't feel like she's dominating. She doesn't look like she's dominating. She is one of the best, and I don't think... and obviously her pick rate is super low. She always has been and always will be because of her playstyle. But I've had some pretty good luck on Brigitte, so I can see why she is where she is. But I don't think that this whip shot is I don't feel like it's unwarranted. I don't feel like it's too much. I don't feel like it'll be a huge difference anyway. So I'm totally fine with this nerf as well. And then we take a look at Baptiste. Better than most DPSs. If you take a look at many of your games with Baps in them, he's going to be losing 9 rounds in his primary fire ammo. So that's going to be 3 bursts that he will be losing out on. totally understandable. That dude is leading in a limbs quite a lot. Obviously, Moira is as well, but he's doing way more damage and typically doing more healing as well, although they can both output massive numbers in both categories. So overall, I am kind of hesitant on how some of these tank changes will be good for the game, but there are also some good changes. No problem with the Brig nerf. No problem with the Tracer buff. She absolutely needed it. And we'll just have to see with Roadhog and Mauga and how they're going to affect the game going forward, and possibly Ramatra as well.